So today we're going to refurb this Gadget cache. This Gadget cache has been out for 8 years in the woods and it's seen better days. You can see the animals have tried to chew into it on different places, and ultimately the screws busted out of the back. I'm going to refurb this. Most of the pieces are all going to have to be redone. We might be able to salvage these end pieces. We'll see how it works. So stay with me and I'll show you how this particular cache works. So the way this cache worked in the past is I have multiple holes all around it, and the name of this cache is called Bullseye. And so you have to determine which one of these holes is what the one you need to hit to actually release this mechanism. It's a gate lock. And so what happens is you close it like this, the gate lock engages, and then you have to push. You have to find out that I'm poking through different holes, and I actually tell you, you can use a flashlight and you can actually see the orange in there. And like I said, this one's taken a good beating over the years, so it doesn't open the way it used to. But this is it, and we're going to start refurbing this. So looking at this, it looks like we're going to be able to salvage this wall, maybe my roof. Looks like we're just going to have to replace the back piece of plywood and that front piece of plywood. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take these screws out of this bottom hinge, and we're going to match up that on our plywood and get us a front door. Redesign that a little bit, maybe beef it up. Well, I decided instead of using my plywood, I've got some thick 1x6s or something. They already got a nice painting, white paint on here. I'm going to use these boards instead, and I'm going to replace my bottom board in here as well. Probably even maybe the roof. So the only original pieces are probably going to be these two side pieces, and we'll see how that goes as we work along. And you'll see where those animals have chewed this up here and here, so they're going to use this piece here to get our angle right for that roof. So we're going to draw that out now, and that way we've got a good angle there. And then we can transcribe our holes. Like I said, these were fake holes down here, but this one here was actually misaligned with the actual latch, so I'm going to move it back up here. And this is a more direct path to that latch. So I've got that cut. Like I say, I spare you the time I took to get it cut on my table saw here, but we're going to go ahead and drill the holes here. This is where the arrow goes in. I have the 3 choices on the front, and then I'm going to countersink these screws that go into the actual latch. Okay, the reason that I'm countersinking these actual screws is that this is thicker than what we used to have. We used to have the plywood, so I want them to actually set down in here a little bit. And I'm using this special bit that actually makes a hole for the actual screw, and it actually flares it out so it can countersink into there. So because I marked those holes, they all lined up pretty good, so hopefully the latch is where it needs to be. We're going to temporarily put one screw in each one of these hinges and just see if it latches properly before we end up putting that in place. We're going to go ahead and replace our bottom once this gets done, but we're going to see if everything lines up first. So I was going to try to salvage these hinges, which I think I can salvage the hinges, but I'm not going to reuse them because I've got another kit that has hinges in it. I'm going to go ahead and use these. The reason why is these screws are just about shot. They're just about stripped out, hardly have any thread left them in at all. So I was going to have to put new ones in there, so I might as well just use my new. I've got this for another project, so I'm going to go ahead and use it on this one. Put new hinges on there. you noticed earlier, but I did have to take the bottom off to get those hinges off. So my bottom was this little piece of plywood, and it did extend a little bit to the back. I'm actually going to make it go right to the even with the back, and the back is actually going to extend further down now. That way if water runs, it won't run in, it'll run off the back. So now I'm going to take this over to my piece of wood here and go ahead and draw it out and get it cut out for my bottom. So you can see the bottom's installed, and I actually countersunk the hose. And this whole thing's going to go over here on here like this, and we're going to go ahead and get these bolts attached here, and then we'll start working on another piece of it, make sure our latch lines up. So now we got that front door redone. Now what I did notice is it's a little higher, so when I take this board off the back and put the latch back in, I'm going to have to go just a little bit higher on the latch to make sure it lines up with this latch. But everything works pretty well. The next thing I'm going to do is replace the roof. Pretty beat up, so I'm going to put a new roof on here. So we got the roof off of there, and here it is here. So I'm going to cut it out. I'm going to have a beveled edge on the front edge. I'm going to cut it here, and I'm going to have an angle here and here to keep water to run off. I did notice that my old roof was a two-parter. This will be a one solid piece. So to get my little degrees on this edge, like I say, this is a little bit precise. I'm doing more woodworking stuff than I am outdoor work, but it wouldn't have to be exact. But we use this little piece here to get our degrees, so that way we know what our degrees are here, and that way when we go set up our saw, we'll have this set up where we'll have that degree on our board here. So we'll go set up our saw using this measurement. So using this here, I determined that it was about 22 degrees, give or take a few degrees. So I've got my saw set up at that angle. That'll cut my bevels on the edge of that. So now I've got the roof in place, and what I'm going to do now is use this little pilot bit, probably a little bit bigger drill than I should use, but I want to go ahead and put a pilot, because since these are going to be done at an angle, I'm going to probably just going to put 2 screws in each one of these, and but I got to put a little bit of an angle on those, so do that now. So now I'm going to replace the back. So it probably been just easier to build a brand new one of these, but I kind of knew what I did here, so this way I can kind of use it as a template, the old pieces. So I'm going to take this piece loose. Now it does have the block on there for the latch, so I got to be careful about where I position that to make sure that's at the right place. Back piece is going to be out of heavier duty, and that'll work out better. It'll last longer that way. But key right now is I've got to get this latch in the proper position. So I did some measurements, so I'm going to try to get those scoured in here and actually get this hooked into that. Hopefully it'll match up with my latch on the inside. So I got the back on there, and that was a son of a gun to get this thing lined up just right. And I had to redo adjustment on this. And I got my little chains to keep this door from ripping off. But looks like it works. Basically you shut it, and you hear it click, and it's latched right now. There's no way to open this up. And if you have a flashlight, you can look in there and see that orange piece. Like I say, people will be pushing it. I'll put different holes in where people can put it in different places. Like I say, I'll have to paint this, and some of these aren't barely even get it in there. But like I say, I'll paint the different ones that you have to try for. But then when you hit this lever here, it pops open because it hits that little plunger right here. That little plunger, and you can see that if you got a flashlight. So that hole goes through and then hits that, opens up the latch. So we're going to finish up painting this thing up. I think I won't paint it white, put some geocaching logos on it, and get it all back in the woods. But everything's been reinforced. Kind of bizarre, we only reused the two sides. So there's the finished product, ready to go out in the woods. And looks like it could last at least another 8 more years, maybe longer. If you're interested in doing this particular geocache, look in the video description and I'll have the GC numbers there. So, like I say, there it is, completed. I only end up using the 2 side walls, but I use that stuff as a template. So, and that's about all I have on this video, and we'll see you on another one.